Now, I love when news breaks before we start recording. This is the best kinds of news. In fact, way better than the news that breaks after we finish recording. And in this case, while I was, picking up some coffee with my lovely wife before the recording, I hopped on right before we started recording. I said, "Hey, Jake, are you excited to talk about Yusei Kikuchi, who just signed a contract?" And Jake said, "What? Who say Kikuchi? Signed with where?
Yusei Kikuchi?"
And so now I get to tell Jake where Yusei Kikuchi signed. Again, this is a bit that we don't intend to always bring back, but this worked out. Jake, how did you miss this, I guess, before I tell you where he signed?
I sat down at my desk this morning at 8 o'clock. I scrolled through MLB trade rumors.
Mm-hmm.
I read a couple Rico Cardi obituaries. I watched old Jose Fernandez highlights. And I added to the show document and just did not open a social media platform.
Uh-huh. Well, as I was sitting waiting for my mocha, I opened up the old tweet machine. I don't know if this news has made it to Blue Sky yet. I'm not sure. I assume it has. But at 8:38 a.m. Eastern time, John Heyman, can you believe it? John Heyman got the scoop for Scott Boras' client. More on the Scobo in a second. Yusei Kikuchi has signed a 3-year, $63 million deal. First thoughts on 3 years, $63 million?
It's a good chunk of change for him.
Good chunk of change, right?
Getting the third year is a win.
Jake, I'm going to make you guess. Who's the one team that's done anything this winter?
The Los Angeles Angels.
They kept it going as the Angels have signed another player before anybody else has even woken up. The Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim have signed Yusei Kikuchi to a 3-year, $63 million deal. This comes a few days after. We're going to get to our non-tenders later. They non-tendered Patrick Sandoval, a lefty who's been in their rotation for a while. Now, he had Tommy John surgery last summer, so he was likely not going to be a big factor in their rotation this year. But the Angels stay busy. And Yusei Kikuchi, who was not saddled with the qualifying offer, unlike a lot of the other starting pitchers at the top of this market, is able to get a 3-year, $63 million deal. Again, that's a nice chunk of change from an AAV standpoint. A deal that if you told me he got this back in May, I'd be like, what? What happened? Well, he got traded to the Astros, and he was fantastic. Now, I know he didn't end up actually starting for the Astros in the postseason, but that wasn't his fault because the Tigers won again. So he was unable to get to face Detroit in what I guess would have been Game 3. Instead, he now goes to the Angels, his third American League West club.
Don't hate this move. In fact, kind of like this move. But the Angels picked a fascinating time to start operating intelligently. If you look at the moves that they've made, except for Kyle Hendricks, respectfully, I like these moves, but they're not enough to make the Angels that good, to my opinion. If you took the team they have now and you just put Shohei Ohtani on it, I'd be like, that team's going to make the playoffs. I could talk myself
No, you
into
wouldn't.
that.
No, you wouldn't. No, you wouldn't. Stop. Don't say that. Come on.
Yeah, you're right. Sorry, we're not allowed to do that. We're not allowed to do that.
They also lost 99 games. Like, okay, I understand what you're saying. I think my takeaway initially, because I agree with the general sentiment that you're starting with. This is the first move, though, that doesn't even feel like these other moves maybe made them incrementally better and showed them like, yeah, they're trying to get veterans. They got Soler and Darno, whatever. This is like a real move. Like, they had to outbid other teams that definitely could have used Yusei Kikuchi to get him to sign before December. I mean, that's what is compelling to me, is that for Kikuchi, who is, again, he's a little bit older. He's 33 already, but coming off this great season, he's been fairly durable. You could say that he got notably better when he started throwing that slider a bunch in Houston, so maybe he can replicate that. This is a much more aggressive move than some of these other moves, picking up players that weren't necessarily going to be super coveted in the way that Darno and Soler were, right? So that's kind of where I'm at, where it does signal to me that they probably got to keep going, right? And I'm curious how much more spending room they actually have, to go. I mean, this brings their payroll. They're still well below the luxury tax line, but I mean, could they still try and land another top 50 hitter or two? Maybe not a top 10 hitter, but it wouldn't surprise me. But it's for a team that was so terrible a year ago. It's going to take a lot more than this for me to get excited. And I will say, it also, they did sign Tyler Anderson after he was an all-star and he was horrible, and then a little bit better in his second year. So hopefully Kikuchi can get them a little bit more than that. Obviously, they're paying him a little bit more than they gave Anderson. So this tells me that there's no turning back now, right? They're not going half measures. Like, they really are going to try and win in 2025. And the reality is, there's no reason for me to give them the benefit of the doubt until they go anywhere close to winning games again. I'm glad they're trying. We are always going to commend baseball teams for trying to win. They're not trying to win. So in that sense, good job. And I like Kikuchi, but again, you just would need so many more moves for me to feel that good about this roster.
This is a great example of how the third wild card changes team behavior in the winter. That extra spot makes the Angels think they could sneak into it, because when you look at this roster now, if there's only 2 wild card spots, it's harder to make the argument. But with more room in the playoff field, you could squint and then maybe shut your eyes and dream a little bit, and you could squint and I'm not saying for me. I'm saying for the organization internally. This team right now is trying to compete in 2025. Like, full stop.
Yeah.
Now, I don't think they will, but thinking they will is better than not thinking they will internally. This brings their payroll, just for context, to $190 million, above the Rangers.
Yeah.
This is a masterclass in bad roster construction. Now, a lot of that is Anthony Rendon sucking up $38.5 million every year of space.
2 more
But
seasons.
still, $190 million is well above average in the major leagues.
Oh, yeah.
And this team
of course.
was absolute buns last year.
Yeah. So again, we are glad they're trying. And maybe if you're talking about the third wild card, I think that's valid. If we're really squinting and saying, maybe the AL West isn't that good. I mean, they just had this embarrassing season. Maybe the Rangers aren't that good. Maybe the Mariners aren't that good. Maybe the Astros are trading bad. Again, why would we trust the team that has the longest postseason drought, that has all these structural failures and all these things? That's where I'm still at. But again, credit to them for, again, clearly outbidding. You would think there are a lot of teams that would want Yusei Kikuchi without the qualifying offer, and they were able to get him done here before December, which brings us to our last part about this, which is the Scott Boras element. But if you have another Angels thing, go ahead.
I just want to quickly mention Kikuchi has the upside of someone you can trust starting a game 1 of a playoff series. And those players are hard to find. Now, the Kikuchi that was in Toronto for the first half of last year is someone you wouldn't want starting a playoff game, let alone game 1. But once he went over to Houston and made some adjustments, he was amazing. He got a Cy Young vote, okay? Which feels wonky, yes. So I think that when you're the Angels and you're not going to probably spend on Fried or Burns on that top end, you're looking for, if things break 80th percentile with a move, what does it look like? And I think for Kikuchi, he has shown the ability to be dominant in a way that not many pitchers have. Now, the consistency of that and how he rolls it over into next year, he's going to be 34, yada, 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 all fair. But in terms of what the upside of this move is, I like it quite a bit. But let's boot up the Scobo, because Yusei Kikuchi is represented by Mr. Scott Boras.
Yes, and Scott Boras, he said at the GM meetings, he kind of teased this. He said, without having this is not really, I don't think this is a pun, but this is what he said about Kikuchi when asked about it. Without having a qualifying offer, you see a whole menu of teams that would not normally be participating for a starter at that level. For that reason, he's one of the most sought-after players in free agency, as Jake puts his Boras Corp hat on. A whole menu of teams that apparently include the Angels of Anaheim. Now let's decide, Jake, is this a dub? Because as we stand here, the Scobo, the Scott Boras scoreboard, Scoboed, he is 4, 5, and 2 on the season. We are awarding a win, loss, or draw for anything involving Scott Boras, whether it's a signing, whether it's a bad pun, whether it's someone leaves his agency, as Kyle Raleigh did at the end of last week.
If he falls down a flight of stairs at the winter meetings,
that is an or like farts in public, that would be an L.
Or if I see him like crushing 2 brews at the bar at the same time.
Yeah.
Like, that's a win. Like,
yeah, it's like, all right, okay. So there's other ways for Scott Boras to win than sign a contract, but this is very straightforward. Did he do well for Yusei Kikuchi here? I think yes. I think for a pitcher to get, over $20 million a year with Kikuchi's kind of spotty track record before December is, I think, a nice bit of business. It's a little hard to judge this one because we don't totally know where the starting pitching market is yet. However, I think we're going to give this a dub.
it's the qualifying offer times 3, is it not? That's just what the contract is?
Yeah, although now I'm remembering that when we had Jeff Passan on, Jeff Passan was like, we were trying to discuss the line for all caps breaking, and I was like, Kikuchi, and you were like, of course. And I believe Jeff said something along the lines of, you said Kikuchi is going to get $80 million, which he did not. But I am still okay giving this a win.
Very quickly, here's why I think it is a win. Now, you could compare it to the Jameson Taiwan Walker,
which was a 4-year
70 deal. Those guys were younger when they signed the deal.
Yeah, that's why I think I agree. Yep.
That is the thing. Getting a 3-year deal for a pitcher who's going to be in his age 34 season, you're paying for 34, 35, 36, and he has never really delivered over the course of a full season.
Yeah, I mean, he was an all-star once with the bad Mariners, or I guess the decent Mariners in 2021. But yeah, we haven't seen the version that we just saw for 10 starts in Houston over a long period. Not even close.
I think this is a Scobo W.
Yeah.
But it's the type of W where, like, it could have gone both ways. You know, it's like 85th minute deflection on a free kick.
Hey, we'll take the points. We will take the points.
Deserved goals is even.
Oh, the X goals. Okay, well, we're going to give the dub, which brings Scott Boras to 5-5-2 on the winter. Boras Corp rolls on.